Podcast, Cristo Rey Podcast, the Cristo Rey Podcast, right in your ears. Podcast, Cristo Rey Podcast, the Cristo Rey Podcast, let's explore some careers. This week, most of your favorite podcast hosts are here. They're joined by a group of local entrepreneurs. So let's get down to business, as Mulan once said. And by Mulan, of course, I mean the cartoon, and not the really bad live-action remake podcast. Cristo Rey Podcast, the Cristo Rey Podcast, coming at you. A podcast. Cristo Rey Podcast, the Cristo Rey Podcast. Oh boy, here it comes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cristo Rey Columbus Podcast. You are joined with your usual hosts, me, Brianna Blankson,
Ruby Monroy,
Helen Masisa,
Alonga Bashambana,
Rebecca Loaiza.
We're glad that you could be joining us today. We have a very special podcast episode. We are joined by some career-oriented people here, and they're going to be giving us some information about their jobs and the things that we do. So get ready to learn because it's going to be very informative. Now, can we have some of our people who are here introduce themselves?
My name is Ebony Jeanette. I own Ebony Jeanette PR. It is a heavy metal and extreme music publicity company. What I do is public relations for metal bands and record labels. So I'm responsible for making sure that any album releases have media attention around them, such as album reviews, interviews, magazine coverage, Spotify playlists, and things like that. I started that company in 2010. And most recently, I also became a realtor in the state of Ohio in 2017. Since then, I've done over $2 million in sales. And it's still a new endeavor for me, but I am loving, the aspect of public relations and marketing that goes into real estate as it also relates to, what I do in my other careers. So I guess I would say I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Wow, does it all. Okay.
So my name's Elizabeth Glenn McCormick. I own a travel management company. I have two locations. One is here in Columbus. The other one is right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. We book travel for corporations, private companies, universities, hospital systems, and we also have a team that books leisure travel. I grew up in Columbus, but then I went to Spelman College, which is really dear to my heart. It was a great experience and really shaped the woman that I am today. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Keith Stevens, serial entrepreneur as well. I appreciate that reference, Ebony, and really appreciate your grind and hustle that you're doing two things at once. I think that's what entrepreneurs do. We juggle balls and we wear several different hats, right? I started my company 28 years ago with $500 loan. It's now an IT consulting firm, award-winning here in Columbus. We support public-private sector organizations with mobile builds, custom apps, project program management, and we got a robust, what we call staff augmentation practice, probably with 170 consultants out billing at any one time at companies across the Midwest. I also own 49% of a San Francisco-based software engineering. We can do technology transformation, product development on behalf of startups in the San Francisco area. And then finally, we've got a business unit here we reimagined that we're going hard with a hard launch in January. Really excited about it. Went to Ohio State, dropped out to go manage clothing stores. I've just not been real good in school. It didn't keep my attention. I love business. I love the ups, the downs, the unknowns, trying to see around corners, etc. And really excited to be here. And just a shout out to Summers Martin for just the work she's done with your school and then on behalf of the small business community in Columbus at large. So thanks, Summers.
Looks like we got some amazing people here today.
Sonny Martin, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, Catholic kid, went to all school, high school. I was in grade school and they asked me which one. I wanted to play football for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I was narrowly focused on that, achieving that goal. But I was a running back and broke my ankle twice, and that was over with. So I had to take that physical athleticism and being a good athlete and turn it into a mental athleticism by becoming an expert at something. So I thought with this deep, Barry White voice, I would be a great news guy. So that's what I studied in college. I ran my college radio station, and people slide Barry White records underneath my dorm room door because I had the voice, supposedly. But I put together a symposium of Central Ohio's anchor people in college, my junior year in college, with the goal of having somebody hire me so I wouldn't have to start as an intern. And it worked out. Channel 6, Action 6 News hired me on the spot. African-American manager of college radio station 3 years in a row. I said, bye-bye college. And I was already working in my field. And then the great disappointment happened that, in college, they teach that the news should be fair, balanced, and objective. You put fair, balanced, and objective on any test, you get 100. I get in the business with the Action 6 News card. They assigned a Black photographer to me. And my beat is the Black community. So if you've been shot, stabbed, house on fire, carjacked, drug deal, drug chase, we was Johnny on the spot because we knew the hood. So anyway, long story short, 6 months into it, I'm an optimistic guy. I try to have a good outlook on life, and this job just depressed me to no end. And I walked up to the anchor person who actually was the news director at the time, and I said, in college they teach that news should be fair, balanced, and objective. Is none of that. And he responded to me, quite frankly, that the news business, if it bleeds, it leads, and we don't need to look too far in your community for that. So go out and get me another story. At which I was shocked and appalled that he said that to me. And I turned in my resignation. I quit literally that day. And I had to find something else. So I just always knew I was going to work for myself. And I started my first business at 22 years of age, got an SBA loan, built a substantial entertainment consulting business when the disco movement was hot, leasing sound and light systems to hotels, motels, bars, restaurants, bowling alleys, and had that business running for about 4 or 5 years, flipped and sold it, bought a nightclub up on Morse Road, King Tut's, your place to be back in the day in the 80s. And that place took off. And unfortunately, the untimely death of my mother, it just devastated me. I literally sold the club in 24 hours and moved to Atlanta, Georgia. I just wanted to start fresh and start new. And when I was in Atlanta, I saw things I'd never seen before. And I said, I'd much rather be a tadpole in Atlanta than a big old fish in Columbus, Ohio. And I worked with the mayor, Maynard Jackson, the first African-American mayor of Atlanta. And I wanted to return back to my journalistic roots and write a story about his life because he was such an amazing man. And he believed that civil rights without economic rights was no rights. And a lot of the pastors really wasn't on board with that philosophy because, the love of money is evil and all that sort of stuff. But after about 2 years of stalking him about writing a book about his life story, he called me up one day and said, listen, I got a project for you. He says, I thought it was going to be to write a book about his life. He says, no, I want to be able to have like an annual yearbook for the city of Atlanta that showcases the African-American talent and the assets of the African-American community. And if you agree and commit to put out this book, he said, I think it'd be an enormous asset for the entire community because white folks talk about they can't find no good Black folks. And this would be that kind of a book. So that's where my publishing business started, doing the book, Who's Singing Black Atlanta. The first book came out in 1991, and it was an instant success. And I came back to Columbus after about 4 or 5 years doing the Atlanta book, and people wanted me to do the book here, and ended up 27 cities, coast to coast, doing that book, Who's Singing Black LA, Houston, Dallas, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit, New York, Miami. And I sold that business about 9 years ago. So my enthusiasm for entrepreneurship is, I said, I'm not a college graduate. I started my publishing company with literally a $5 bill and idea. And I said, at my age, being semi-retired, it would be a waste of me not to impart some of the knowledge and the skill sets that I've learned through 30 years of being an entrepreneur onto another generation. So I started this urban entrepreneur concept. We've got about 700 to 800 people follow us on Facebook, and I work with young folks that are looking to brainstorm a business idea and teach them how to monetize that business. And that's my story.
Wow, and we really appreciate like getting to know a little bit more about like what each and every one of you guys do. I feel like it's really refreshing getting to hear like, you know, from actual people that are in the business game, like getting to know a little bit how you guys got started in it. And I feel like we have a lot of people on the meeting today that would really want to ask you guys, what were the first steps that you guys took that were crucial to your business success? Like, what were the first steps that you guys took? Because I know a lot of us are really interested in business, and we're just curious how your experience been so far, like starting off.
For me, my introduction to entrepreneurship was a paper route at the age of 14 years old. And probably even before that, cutting grass, washing cars. I mean, I just had that hustle at a young age. And I was driven mainly because I come from a single parent household and we didn't have a lot of money. So the things that I wanted, I really needed to go out and earn. And so that's kind of where the bug bit me. And ironically enough, one of the clients on my paper route, and it was the house I hated to go to because they had young babies in there. And when you open the door, that diaper smell would hit you in the face. And they always invited me to come in to get my money. And I fought it, but I had to get the money, right? So I'd go in. I noticed in their backyard, he had a step van, a truck. And as it turns out, he had started a business, and it was a beauty supply business. Fast forward 5 years later, I think it was 19 or 20, I got hired working for him, Willis Beauty Supply, James Willis. And this was my introduction to a Black man who ran a business, a successful business, family owned. And so I got the introduction to business in a more deeper way with them. I took over his route, and I was calling on barber and beauty shops, mainly beauty shops. And it was kind of cool because I was a young guy and there was just nothing but women in those beauty shops. So I was motivated to go and sell hard. But I think for me, it was that exposure that really set me up to have the, I guess, have the courage to go out on my own and start a business. I got the sense that I could do it by working around the Willis family. So I think for me that was what contributed most to, I got a chance to see failure there, success, the ups and downs, the expected and the unexpected, reacting and being proactive both, just all the gambit that's involved with owning and running a small business. So that set me up for where I'm at today.
Help stop the spread by washing your hands. And if you don't have soap and water, or you just need to get your hands a little bit cleaner than what they were, you can always use a squirt of hand sanitizer.
So the very first step that I took, I would definitely say is getting my master's degree. Because I knew I wanted to work in the music industry, I had to start off as an intern at a record label, right? So I knew that I had to get in order to get an internship, you have to get college credit. So I had to apply to grad school so that I could, go back to school after I graduated from Ohio State with my undergrad and get the internship. So I did that. I felt like that was a very essential part of me, like being able to even do my job, because without that, I wouldn't have been able to, work in the record label, which enabled me to then have them contract my company to do press for them instead of me being an employee. Another thing that was extremely essential was putting my face in the place and networking as much as I possibly can. So when you are trying to start out on your own, you might not be familiar with a lot of the top players that are in your industry, or even your competitors and things like that. And going out, networking, being a part of different organizations, doing things like that, meeting and talking to different people, and just becoming your own personal brand in a way, like as far as building your relationships is essential. And without that, I definitely wouldn't be able to do either one of my businesses.
Well, much like Keith, I was the paper boy, mow grass, shovel snow, rake leaves, single parent mother, and she was in a wheelchair. And I was responsible for paying the rent in 8th grade on. And so I always had that hustle mentality. But I was just very, very blessed. The key ingredient that my mom absolutely demanded of her boys, that we had a very strong work ethic. You know, we outworked everybody, and we had to for the sustainability of the family. But when I left Channel 6, I went to radio, and I went to the oldest Black radio station in Columbus, Ohio, WBKO Radio. Me and Casey Jones started a week apart, and I was a 10 to 2 shift. KC was in the afternoon, Kirk Bishop was in the morning. And I was just dumbfounded that the Black radio station was not owned by a Black person, and it was sitting in the middle of Upper Arlington. And that just totally freaked me out. It was just like, you know, believing that when you first find out there's no Santa Claus. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And so my mother said I was always an inquisitive child. And I'm going, the only people Black in this radio station are the disc jockeys. Everybody else is white. And so we're getting people to dance and boogie and go to this club and this, that, and the other, doing all that. And the owner is walking in the side door, not talking to us. And he walked out with a briefcase full of money. So I started tracking the amount of commercials played in my time period from 10 to 2. And I was only making like $150, $200 a week. And in the radio business, you're only working 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, 25 hours. So you got to make your money on the streets, you know, in the nightclubs and sock ups and doing that sort of thing. And I was just dumbfounded that I tracked the amount of money in commercials that was played just during my slot, 10 to 2, Monday through Friday, and it was almost $17,000. And it just flipped my wig, because I'm going like, this dude is making like 150, and in my time slot, he's making, you know, this incredible amount of money. So I just got up enough nerve, if you can ever remember the time that you sought to go to your boss for a raise because you think you deserved it. You had the butterflies in your stomach. And I went to the owner. I had to set up a meeting with him and couldn't see him for about 4 or 5 days. And I walked in his office, had butterflies. I was asking for a $50 a week raise. He's making $17,000 off of my time slot. I'm getting $150 a week. And he said, if you're coming in my office asking me for a raise, the answer is no. What else can I help you with? It was just real shrewd. And I just stopped. I said, well, have you seen the ratings? My ratings are higher than anybody that's been in the seat in the last 5 years, blah, blah, blah. He said, look at that file cabinet over there. He said, I'm going to teach you a business lesson about supply and demand. You see that file cabinet over there? I could close my eyes and pick out of that huge stack of resumes anybody that would work here for free just for the experience. He said, the only reason I'll pay you guys anything is the law says I have to pay you something. He said, there's a greater supply than there is demand for jobs in broadcast. So if you look at all the students coming out of Ohio State, Capital University, all the colleges that are looking for that opportunity to break into broadcasting, he said, you know, 99% of them will never find a job. And so he said, is that all you have? And I just thought he was the shrewd, meanest guy in the world. And I said, you know, if I ever own a business, I'm not going to treat my employees that way. He said, there's only 3 things to business, Mr. Martin. You got the revenue that comes in, you got the expenses go out, and the rest is profit. And profit is not a dirty word. So the least amount of money I have in expenses, the more profit I have. And that was my business education. And I literally gave him my 2-week notice, and I'm like, I'm out of here, and I'm going to build my own company. I get it, but I'm going to treat my people much better than that, you know. And it introduced me to capitalism, you know. I can't sell worms to fishermen because I just want to make a lot of money. I don't care for worms, and maybe I'll fish once a year. But in starting a business, you know, it's great to have a creative idea, but you got to learn how to monetize it. Somebody's got to go out, shake a hand, make a friend, and get a check, and bring money into the front door. And then, you know, again, those 3 things. You got the revenue that comes in, the expenses that go out, and the rest is profit. So that was my kind of wake-up call, and I'm thankful it happened at such an early age, because I have not looked back in 30-some years. And My biggest business was a $5 million business in 27 cities. So that's kind of the exposure to business that I had.
Wow, it's very interesting to see how the mind works. When listening to you guys speak, you kind of see different ways that people trying to start their businesses and make sure things are going. So I think it would be actually really interesting to hear from someone who actually works at our school and helps get connected to such amazing career-oriented people like you guys. Miss Martin, could you introduce yourself and kind of just give us some aspect as to how you thought it was important to get started in the business that you are in now?
Sure. Thank you, Brianna. So as you heard Mr. Stevens say, I was at the Columbus Chamber for about 12 years, which is how I met these really great business owners. I had spent over 20 years in state government and left there as a deputy director in mental health. As I was growing up, I thought that I wanted to be a child psychiatrist. And because of things that I saw and learned about what people do to kids, to young people, it kind of deterred me. It sent me into another direction. And so in my college years, I pursued a degree in business. Because at that time, like these great business owners, I thought I was going to start a business. I then did my master's work, and my master's degree is in human services management. And then the work that I've done around my doctorate, my PhD, is all about how to run nonprofits. I've worked in nonprofits for the better part of my life. It has been an amazing ride. And the two things that I love the most, working with young people like you and working with businesses like I've had the honor of doing with these panelists, drove me to Cristo Rey, Columbus. A very good friend of mine who she is the president of First Merchants Bank, told me about this great opportunity. I was like, at a school? And I was like, I don't want to work in a school. I have run from being in education all of my life. I come from a family of educators. And when I came over to Cristo Rey and I took my first tour and I saw the architecture of the school and I learned about the mission of the school, and that mission was connected to career readiness and college preparation for college prep students like you, I knew that I had come home. And so I've been there a little bit over a year. I know many of you, as you all know, I am the commish for draft day. So I get to announce all of your names and connect you to your work partners. It is, when I think about my dream job, I will say, and y'all can see the salt in my hair, that I have arrived at my dream job. And it is coming to Cristo Rey every single day and seeing you all when I can on the days that you are at school and learning more about what you're trying to do as you matriculate through high school and go on to college and come back to Columbus maybe and start businesses or go to work in your current workplaces, because they're always looking for students like you who are smart and talented. And I suspect that one day in the very distant future, I hope, when I am ready to retire, all of you will be happy to come to my retirement party, and you will bring me that 10% that you owe me for helping to find you jobs, because I will need that money in my retirement. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Brianna, for asking me to say something. I love all of you students. I love you so very much, and I cannot wait until you all can hang out again in our professional work study office.
What do you know about the 5 pillars? Do you know what the 5 pillars are? Have you seen these 5 pillars posted anywhere? No, they are not posted anywhere in the school building. And so we thought, why is that? Why it is that if these 5 pillars are so important to us, why aren't displayed anywhere in the building? So we thought that we needed to do something about that, and that we could invite our artists, student artists, to help us out in designing a poster in which we can display these 5 pillars.
If you're interested in joining the team in charge of designing the school's 5 Pillars poster, contact Ms. Vallejo for more information.
Thank you all for coming and also for your great story. My name is Helen and I'm a junior. My question is for all of you. So for people who want to have a different major, like other than business, and also have a minor in business, what advice would you give, like balancing 2 different fields?
Well, I majored in psychology and minored in Spanish. And psychology was very helpful because, as everyone has said on this call, relationships are key, and really understanding people and meeting people where they are, because everyone comes from a different background and situation. But with business, people want to do business with those people they know, trust, and like. But really understanding that people are coming from different places and you have to interact with people differently. Like for my team, for example, some people I can joke around with, some I cannot, about certain things. So it was very helpful to really understand how to interact and adapt and work with people and meet them where they are.
I majored in communications for my bachelor's degree from Ohio State, and I ended up, and I also minored in women's studies when I went there. I didn't know that that advertising and marketing and public relations really goes into almost any field that you would want. So I was able to see that once I started, my classes and everything, obviously, but really you'll start to see when you major in, like, if you have a double major or you minor and major in things, you'll start to see that certain things overlap across most majors. Things like communications, things like business, you can find a lot of similarities. So it's just about finding the balance and then finding what you want to kind of put your niche in as far as the things that you really like in that field. And I think you'll be successful. It can seem like it might be overwhelming, but I think if you just pay more attention to the parts that that are relatable to each other, that then you'll be able to navigate.
Well, let me say one thing. And I tell people all, I think education is vitally important, but you can get it institutionally, or you can just have a thirst for become an expert at something. And I tell folks all the time, and I work with a lot of young folks, they don't want to read a book anymore. I have probably 1,000 books in my collection of books about successful entrepreneurs, and I just live inside Barnes & Noble bookstore to get a new book. And obviously I was in the publishing business, so that was kind of, right up my alley. But reading about success leaves clues. And you look at the skill sets that you need to be successful, whether it be in sales, whether it be in marketing, whether it be in employee management. You can seek mentors that are successful in those lanes. You can read books about success stories that other folks have written in that same space. And you just have to be thirsty enough to want to learn and committed to the process. I've been just very fortunate. I've interviewed some of the most successful African Americans on the planet, with our Who's Who book series, from David Stewart, who's the largest African American entrepreneur in the United States of America, has been for the last 26 years. He's got a business doing $10.4 billion a year. And David tells an incredible story that when he left FedEx, he took one of their chief programmers with her. He started his company, Worldwide Technologies. He was negotiating his very first deal, got enough money to get an office set up. And while he was on the phone trying to close this $200,000 deal. He saw his Mercedes-Benz being repossessed out in the parking lot at the same time he was trying to close the deal. So he said he had no other choice but to make sure he closed that deal. So, going all the way back to Madam C.J. Walker, the very first female millionaire in America, she was in her grave by 1920. You go to Alabama, Martin Luther King would have never gotten out of jail if it hadn't been for A.G. Gaston, who was Black Enterprise named him the entrepreneur of the century. His goal was he wanted to own businesses from the cradle to the grave. So he started with an insurance company, then he got a funeral home, then he got a cemetery, then he got a hotel, then he built up he bought a radio station, then he built a bank. He wore the same suit every single day until it literally fell off his body. But there's some incredible stories about some entrepreneurs that in more troubled times than we have lived in that have been highly successful. You go to Atlanta, right over there by Spelman College, and you look at the Alonzo Herndon House, this magnificent mansion that he built as a runaway slave, and he built it in 1910 on the highest hill in Atlanta. And when you look at the construction of that mansion and learn about how he became successful, first as a barber, and then opened up Atlanta Life Insurance Company. W.E. Du Bois was in Atlanta at the same time, and so was Booker T. Washington. So Atlanta's had that rich legacy of history of entrepreneurship, and that's why a lot of folks look at it as Wakanda today. But I don't care where you're at. You can start where you're at, and you can be thirsty enough to gain information, especially with the internet. We did all this without the internet. I started my company. There wasn't no internet. You had to go out, shake a hand, make a friend, and get a check.
Hey, real quick, I just wanted to add, while I dropped out of college, I did an executive management course at Fisher, at Harvard, at Northwestern, and Accenture's Worldwide Professional Development Center in St. Charles, Illinois. So don't want to discount education, just that I can't really speak. Me and college didn't really get along. But I understand and respect and value education for sure.
I'm glad that you said that, Mr. Stevens, because I was going to come back and have to point that out. Because while these students are preparing for college, what we do know is that during the summer, on Christmas break, on holiday breaks, there are great opportunities that exist out there. It may exist with one of these awesome entrepreneurs that are on the Zoom tonight, and it may change the trajectory of your life. I do want to point out that Mr. Martin, he is not my brother, even though he's not my family, even though we are brother and sister, if y'all understand. He's my play brother. He talked about the entrepreneur, billions of dollars, not millions. Like I'm a hundredaire, I know some thousandaires. He's talking about people that are making billions. Set your North Star and be great. Be greater than you are, because you already are great.
Yeah, by the way, David Stewart, WWT, is a client of our San Francisco business. We do cloud transformation projects with them. And I don't know if anybody's heard of Billy Vickers, but right here in this market, we have a billion-plus owner of a company that's African-American, very low-key, great operator, and great humanitarian. So Columbus can boast really robust and successful people of color that have done very, very well.
Yeah, you've got Moody Nolan Architects here, which is the largest African-American architect company in the entire United States. And I'm just so proud of the work that they have done. I've seen their footprint all over the country. The other thing, success leads clues, as I've said, but beyond being thirsty to learn, you should seek mentorship. There's so many people that get in business by themselves because they think they can hit a microwave button. They see somebody else doing something, they think they can do it. The greatest guidance I got with my very first business was a student that was going for his CPA license, and in order to take the test, he had to work with a small company, and he put the financial infrastructure that I would learn how to read a financial statement. I would know about cash flow, all the things that went into managing the finances of the business. And I, because I never took Algebra 1. So it was incredibly helpful for me. So, you got good legal counsel, you've got good CPA that can guide you, and you know where you're at, and you set those parameters to build, you can literally, take on the world.
Attention, attention to all who are near. The Cristo Rey Cougars are writing this year. Where, you ask? I'll give you a clue. You can check out the Cristo Rey Writing Club on Mrs. Graham or Mrs. Matt Zoom. We meet every Wednesday evening from the hour of 6 to 7. So come and join us to learn vocab, write poems, and try on your rhyme scheme. Come learn to collaborate and fulfill your writer's potential and dreams. So email Mrs. Graham or Mrs. Matt to learn more. Let's see who can write, but who really is keeping score. See you there, Cougars.
My name is Alonga. I'm a junior. And the question I have, like everybody else who wants to be an entrepreneur, would also want to ask this question. What advice would you give somebody who wants to become an entrepreneur?
My first piece of advice is learn how to manage your money and budget. Start now, saving. That's going to be the thing that's going to help you the most, because starting a business is hard. Losing money is not fun, and you're going to lose money. Like, it's going to happen. You're going to have setbacks. You might not lose a lot of money, but you might have some setbacks being an entrepreneur. And if you have at least some sort of savings, a little nest egg, an emergency fund, you're going to feel a whole lot better when bad things start to happen. And it's never too early to learn how to, start a budget. I don't know if you guys are working jobs yet, but even if you aren't, like, even if you sell, old clothes, or you do, you get paid for cleaning your house or whatever, little things that you can do to earn money, start doing it, start saving, start watching YouTube videos or whatever it makes you comfortable, finding someone that can teach you about money, whatever medium that you can get that education, try to get it, because that's going to be one of the most things that you're going to need in the beginning, and as you get better and better and start more and more businesses.
Yeah, I would say research. So if there's a particular industry you're interested in, really research it, examine it, become an expert in that area, and see if maybe there's something that hasn't been created yet that you could do. In addition, just one thing, like, strengthen your relationship with the bankers. Everyone always says, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to have a strong banker, accountant, and an attorney. And so, again, as you're looking and thinking about starting a business, like, start lining those people up in those relationships, because those will help you be successful with, when you start your business, during, and if something happens and you need some counsel. Those three roles are critical.
It may be glamorous to a lot of folks to think they want to own a business, but entrepreneurship is definitely not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. The SBA says 80% of the businesses that open up, they fail in the first 12 months, okay? So you've got the majority of failure facing you. And sometimes you have to fail to succeed and be successful, all right? That's very important. I have failed. I'm writing my own book about my life story, and I got a whole chapter on my failures, either hiring the wrong person, dealing with the wrong person, that sort of thing. There's all kinds of things that play into that. But I got to tell you this, that another 80% of all the small businesses in the United States who are solo entrepreneurs, meaning they have no employees, they're only doing $50,000 a year, and their net profits are less than $25,000 a year. So, it's kind of like, how do you get credit when you have no credit? How can you be able to afford employees when you don't have the money to pay employees? There's other alternatives and ways that you can use independent contractors, vendors, that sort of thing, partnerships, collaborations, all that. But I tell you, you really need to be well studied, because it's not for the timid to be in business. And know that your family may love you, Your friends may love you, but they're going to tell you you've lost your damn mind. Okay, that you should just go get a good job and be safe. So here's to the rebels. Here's to the square pegs that try and fit in round holes. Entrepreneurs are truly a different breed of people. We've got the competitive edge. We do our market analysis, our research. We got a good team in place, and we're committed to success. It's kind of like if you ever play volleyball, ran track or basketball, or anything, you got that athletic mindset. And who's your coach? Who's your mentor? Critical decisions and making the right steps is vitally important. But someone's got to be concentrated and bring revenue in that front door every day. You can have all the greatest ideas in the world and be as creative as you want to be. But if money is not, when you open up that door and you're in business, you say open for business, you have to be driving revenue and be conscious of driving revenue on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis. And your quarters need to be better than last quarter. You got to have that competitive drive. But if you just want to have a side hustle because you're just passionate about doing something, making, sewing and making meals or whatever, that's okay. Do that until your side hustle replaces your full-time job. That's the safe way to do it. Me, I just jumped out right in the water and quit my job. But there were some lean times, but talk to other entrepreneurs. I think this is a good, I commend the school for having, because I never met any successful entrepreneurs by the time I started my first business. The most prestigious person I knew was the mailman, or a principal at a public school that I heard, or a preacher. I wasn't exposed to actual people who, boom, did it. Less than 2% of African Americans ever own $1 million worth of assets. We're 13% of the population. African American community has the lowest self-employment ratio of any nationality in America. Although it's trending up, we've got to do more. The majority race in this country represents 62% of the population, but they own 77% of all businesses in America. And owning a business is the clearest path to wealth creation in America.
Mr. Martin, you made me think about something, and I just wanted to make sure that our panelists knew this, that one of the hallmarks of Cristo Rey Columbus High School is that we have a signature professional work study program. Every student at our school goes to a professional job 5 days a month. They start working in the 9th grade. This year is an anomaly. Our 9th graders are actually engaged in a Young Professionals Institute because we are living in the land of COVID right now. But every single one of our students goes to work. The goal around going to work is to expose them, and students, you can speak to this yourselves, is to expose them to those professional avenues that exist, at least in Central Ohio, where our students work. It is to build those relationships. I've heard several times about hitting on the importance of mentorship. That is a critical component of our program. So I'm going to make one more request of our students, that when you ask a question or you speak, please make sure that you let our panelists know what year you're in high school and where you work. And finally, who your favorite person at work study is. I know the name is Miss Martin. I'm just kidding about the Martin.
Hi, I'm going to be asking the next question. My name is Rebecca and I'm a sophomore. And right now I currently work at Columbus State Community College in their police department in equity and inclusion. I know that businesses can go up and down and it's like a struggle. So when your business grew, how did you maintain that success?
Yeah, so I'll start, and I'm going to kind of pull in a response to the last question with this. The advice I would give anybody starting a business, along with everything you've heard from the other panelists, is make sure you're solving a problem. I think the research to understand the space you're going to play in, are you going to solve a problem? And if you're not, then you're really creating a hobby and not a business. So that would be one piece of advice. But for me, as I started having success, probably the hardest thing for an entrepreneur to do, especially if you started from nothing, is you still want to wear all the hats and you hold back on hiring someone who can take some of that weight off of you, right? That was the biggest challenge for me, is hiring someone. But the success I've had now is hiring people smarter than I am, paying them more than I make. I'm fine with paying people more than I make if they're going to do the critical work that keeps us sustainable, gives us resilience over time. And that's been my mantra ever since. And at the same time, I think Sonny alluded to this, it's all about wealth creation. What's happened over time by making those investments in people, I now have profit and what's called retained earnings. We've taken money off the table, distributions, et cetera. So it's an investment in the long term. And my advice would be just hire people smarter than you. And that's one of the things you do to sustain growth and actually grow the business.
That was a great answer, Keith. I was your basic C student through school. So, I always sought to hire people way smarter than me. The person that did all the editing on all 64 of my books has got 2 master's degrees. I'm not a graphic designer. I hired the best graphic designers. My expertise was in marketing and sales. So I led a sales team, put together a sales team just to make sure that we had revenue, consistent revenue coming through the door, on a weekly, a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. But that's important.
Hello, Cristo Rey. My name is Lena Renee, and I'm coming to you on behalf of the Melanated and Educated Committee. We are a club that is dedicated to informing others on Black culture and issues within our culture. If this is of interest to you, please join us for our bi-weekly meeting. It will be from 6 to 7 p.m. We hope to see you all there. Stay safe.
The other thing that Keith alluded to is that, I never got in business to make a lot of money. I got in business not just to solve a problem, but I looked for a niche in the marketplace that you can look to the left and right, no one's really doing it, right? And so I didn't publish a magazine. It was a very upscale coffee table quality book that people could be proud to put on their coffee table. And in Atlanta, there's 5 or 6 different Black newspapers, 4 or 5 different Black magazines. So how could I stand out in the crowd? Well, most of them got their revenue from major corporations' marketing departments. I said, that's a long line of kissing rings and genuflecting and all that. I went to HR, found much love in HR, so I could put those employees from big corporations that have sections in the book. So you got to look at the niches. The riches are always in the niches. So, a lot of businesses fail because there is no demand for that product or service. The majority of business fail because there's just not the demand for it, John Maxwell, but one of the 2 things that I really committed to that I found out was the key to building value and owning a business was to be innovative and the market. You've got to market your products and your services. People got to know what it is that you do. And you've got to be, the market leader and having that message out there. So sales was my thing. And every business, every single body sells. You sell a product, a service, an idea. The only way a business makes money, somebody's got to sell something to somebody. That's what keeps the American economy going.
So just like Ms. Martin said, I wanted to allude to the fact that I do have a job in PWSP, and I know it's kind of difficult for other people who maybe their job was closed down because of COVID. But for me, I was actually able to be placed in Grant Medical Hospital this year, and I'm a senior. My goal is to become like a surgeon, so like to see this aspect of it is really good. So I'm really happy that I got my job this year, but I wanted to allude to that aspect. And I just wanted to make commentary about some of the things that you guys were saying. Like you were talking about how you need to find a niche or like things that don't work in the business world. And I agree, like as a consumer of like products, I totally see what you're talking about. If there's like makeup bags or like lip glosses out there, we have people making small businesses and you'll see them making different variations of it, like adding candy to it, making it pinker because maybe more people like the color pink, all of these different things that you see make your eye draw to whatever the person is putting out there. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that's something we see as consumers as well. So it's really nice to hear that and see that people who are running these businesses are actively thinking about it and putting that into their ideas whenever they're talking. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. But we do have a question from Cece, who is an audience member. Thank you for coming. She wants to know, for the ladies who are business partners, how has it been in the business industry as a female? Do you tend to get judged? Does that contributed to any like lashback you get from people? Do they not take you as seriously? What is your opinion on that?
Yes, I mean it's a couple of things. It's being a woman, being a Black woman. You know, there are times that people have a stereotype or prejudge me based on how I look. And you know, with that, it's just part of the game. It's a barrier, but you just get around it. It's not like the end of it, right? So I prepare for that. And no, that's not what I lead with. I lead with what our expertise are and the service we provide and our success. And then the reason I'm mentioning this is because in some cases, like working in the corporate space, having certifications like there's a national certification for being a minority business and a women-owned business, and I have those because oftentimes, and especially now, it's even more critical now where corporations are looking for that, because they're committed to working with, you know, minority businesses, women-owned, Black-owned businesses. So I say that because, I mean, it's just, I don't see it as you know, a barrier. It's just something that comes up. It's not a roadblock. We just kind of figure out how to work around it. And I always say also, I'm not for everyone. So if someone just doesn't, if I'm not the right fit and we're just not getting along, then there are plenty of other clients and there's other business out there. So I don't bang my head against the wall if there's just something that's not kind of ebbing together or jiving well.
The only thing I can add to that, my business would have never been as successful as it was if I didn't have women. I had, you know, chief spiritual officers praying for me. I had, in 27 cities, all but 3 cities, I had women that were leading our sales teams in those cities. And many of them had never, ever been in sales before they left the cubicle life, or start a PR company or a special events company or something of that nature. And I just committed to teach them how to sell and have them keep their regular business they own. But I knew that what I brought to the table would be more. And I'm incredibly thankful for the women that I had working in my company that really took us to the next level and enabled us in 7 years to expand from 2 cities to 27 cities, which I think is quite remarkable. But it was with the awesome women that I had, because, you know, guys, unfortunately, we're looked at as hustlers. You know, we're just about hustling and getting the money. A lot of guys, you know, got the reputation, they don't service what they sell. Women, I found, were much more deliberate and empathetic in dealing with the relationships with my corporate clients, and I felt good coming in with them. But women were very vital to the success and the growth of my company, for sure.
Yeah, and I just want to add, I've watched Elizabeth over the past, 10 or so years. She is a rock star. There's another term I would use, but not with young children. But she's absolutely killing it. And one quick note, I mean, she's got a huge business, but it's been significantly impacted by COVID. And I've watched her manage through that, which has been an exercise in leadership and stick-to-itiveness and just resiliency. So just kudos to you, Elizabeth. You know, you're one of my favorite people.
Thanks, Keith. Same. I say that about you too. You're one of my favorites. And in Summers, I met Keith because of you. If you remember all that. That's right. It's all about relationships.
No, I have all the good people are on my team. I am going to say this as the director of sales. One of the things, and probably, I think I walked into this school with this attitude and mindset, is that I don't take no as an answer. That is never going to be the answer. The answer is always not yet, not right now. And having the ability to pivot, to be able to turn and sell the product differently. If I'm talking about the school and I'm talking about our fantastic students and I'm talking about our program, and they say, oh, but you know, we can't have students perform those duties? Well, let me tell you how you can have students perform those duties, because we have business partners who do have students that perform those duties, and I'm happy to connect them so that another business partner can sell the idea of having students work with them from our school. So I would say I'm going to go back to mentors and mentorship. While both Mrs. McCormick and Mr. Stevens and Mr. Martin are all like, oh, but we all met because of you. Trust and believe that my own growth and my own expansion around what I do now is because I have these great relationships with them. And I know that I can call them. They're going to pick up the phone because it's me. And if I need time, they are going to be kind enough to give me that grace and space to be able to talk about how I can do things better. So you want to always make sure that you have an awesome network of people. Those are the people that when you are down, you heard Mr. Stevens talking about how Mrs. McCormick is having to pivot in COVID. So are we. You all know that we are pivoting during this very difficult time. Business partners are shutting down because the governor has now said to stay at home, and we are still banging on those doors saying our program isn't shutting down, our school isn't shutting down. We still need them to stand in the gap with us, because that is what this really great business community does. So you don't take no, you find the right mentors. Remember, if you're having a bad day, and this applies to you even when you're in school, you go home, you eat dinner, you go to sleep whenever you can, because the next day it's going to look differently, and you get up and you try it again.
Well said, Miss Martin, and well said to all of you guys, all of our panelists. We're very honored to hear your experiences and advices that you've given us students, and we really appreciate for you guys coming today, taking the time out of your successful businesses, and we're truly proud of you guys. I just wanted to let you know that, because I feel like this is very valuable advice, because we have some of our students here, just wanting to know, like, how can I do it? Because sometimes it's just hard to start. And I just want to thank you so much for coming. And this is where we wrap up our podcast for today. I want to thank you, everyone who came today. All of our students, thank you for taking time, because I know you guys have homework. Thank you, everybody.
We got down to business on the podcast today. We got down to business in a major way. The guests shared the best of their business sense, and we hope that you had a blast. This was the Cristo Rey Podcast.